twilight years of myth and legend, when gods meddled in mortal affairs and destiny clung to the edge of a sword. A warrior once feared and now revered walked a path of redemption. She was Xena, the warrior princess. Her armor gleaming like burnished thunderclouds, her chakram swift as judgment, her resolve forged by the fires of regret and resolve. And it was upon the shores of ancient Greece, in the city of Troy, where fate called her once more into the tumult of history and myth. Troy, a city with golden spires and iron gates, stood resilient against the besieging Greek armies. 10 long years of war had scoured its walls, but still it held, proud and unyielding. Behind those walls lived the defenders, noble and weary, driven by love of kin and kingdom. Among them was a figure from Xena's past, Helen, once queen of Sparta, now the flame around which 2 mighty nations had burned. Drawn by a whisper from the past, Xena and her steadfast companion Gabrielle journeyed across battle-scarred lands, past shattered villages and fields turned to graves. They came not as invaders nor spies, but as seekers of truth in a world drowned by deception. The winds that brushed against their faces carried the scent of smoke and sorrow, and with each step, the legacy of 1,000 fallen warriors echoed beneath their boots. Helen's summons had not been mere nostalgia. It was a cry for help, buried beneath layers of intrigue. Within Troy's stone embrace, betrayal coiled like a serpent. The city's gates held strong against swords and arrows, but from within, treachery gnawed at its heart. Helen, the beauty blamed for war, bore a burden heavier than any crown. Her soul, long chained to guilt and longing, saw in Xena not just an old ally, but a sliver of hope. The walls of Troy towered high, casting long shadows across the streets. Xena, ever wary, felt the weight of watchful eyes upon her. Disguises became their shield, and secrets their sword. Gabrielle, ever the idealist, struggled to reconcile the legend of Helen with the woman they now met, fragile, haunted, yet cunning in her own right. And Xena, once a general of conquest, saw the familiar patterns of deception in the court's murmurings. Inside the halls where kings whispered and soldiers sharpened their blades, Paris, Helen's lover, brooded with suspicion. Andromache, wife of Hector, bore herself with dignity, but her eyes knew despair. Even the seer Cassandra, cursed with foresight no one believed, wandered the halls like a phantom, her warnings lost beneath laughter and pride. But Xena listened. She always listened. It was Cassandra who saw the truth first, not in omens or celestial signs, but in human ambition. The Greeks, after years of siege, sought a new weapon, not of iron but of deception. A gift, a peace offering, a wooden horse, colossal and hollow, left outside the gates as a token of surrender. To many it was a miracle. To Cassandra it was death carved in cedar. And to Xena it smelled too much like strategy. But even she, seasoned in warfare, could not sway the tide of a city desperate for peace. The people, weary and clinging to the illusion of victory, saw in the horse not a trap, but a trophy. Priam, the aging king, dared to dream of an end to the bloodshed. The horse was brought within, wheels creaking over cobbled stone, and the gates, once the city's strength, were sealed behind it. That night, the stars hid behind clouds, and silence hung thick as a funeral shroud. Xena remained awake, senses taut, her instincts gnawing at her like wolves at bone. She moved through the shadows of the palace, chakram in hand, heart pounding like a war drum. In a corner of the courtyard, Gabrielle found Cassandra, huddled like an oracle forsaken by time, her voice a broken whisper of warning. Then it began. From the belly of the beast, warriors poured out like a dark tide, Greek soldiers clad in blackened armor, faces set with grim determination. The horse had not been a gift, but a gateway. The gates of Troy, unmanned in revelry, stood open to the waiting army. The silence shattered into screams, and fire painted the walls with orange terror. But Xena was already moving. Like a tempest she tore through the chaos, her blades singing a dirge for the dead. The streets became a battlefield once more, blood mixing with the wine of celebration. Gabrielle fought with desperation, defending the innocent with a courage born of conviction. Together they moved through the city, seeking Helen, seeking Cassandra, seeking any thread of salvation in a night spun from betrayal. Within the palace, Helen stood frozen, neither queen nor lover, but a symbol made flesh. The Greeks had not come merely for conquest. They had come to reclaim her, or perhaps to destroy the legacy she represented. But Xena reached her, carving a path through the fire and fear, and with strength and fury, pulled her from the jaws of fate. As dawn broke, Troy smoldered in ruin. Towers once proud now lay in crumbled silence. The sea glittered with ships heavy with plunder and prisoners. And amidst the ash and ruin, Xena stood with Gabriel and the few who had survived. She had once been a harbinger of such destruction. Now she stood against it, though victory felt hollow. Cassandra, though broken, had been right. The city fell not by force, but by the blindness of hope. Helen, her face streaked with soot and sorrow, stared into the rising sun. She had tried to avert the end, but the world was not kind to symbols, nor to women blamed for the choices of kings and gods. Xena did not linger. The road stretched onward, ever winding, ever uncertain. Troy was but one chapter in a scroll written by blood and redemption. As she walked beside Gabriel, the warrior princess carried more than scars. She bore the weight of memory, of lessons etched into the ruins of cities and the hearts of those left behind. And somewhere, in the distance, another kingdom would cry out. Another soul would tremble beneath the shadow of war. And Xena, ever bound by the ghosts of her past, would answer.